Class, this is an advanced demonstration for Ceramics 3 students. This is a Dutch oven. I'm going to be making the base of it. So you have the lid, and it is a inset lid, which means it does not have a galley that it sits on top of it. So today I'm going to be making just the base, not the handles. The handles will follow though. So I'm going to be making the base today, show you how to make it. So I already threw the ball down, I brought it up into cone, I centered it. Now, one of the differences between making this and making a regular bowl or anything, you want to center it much lower. Now, when you have a large piece of clay, I think this is maybe about 12 pounds of clay, if your wrists don't want to get sore, what I do is I actually center it with my arm. So I get my arm nice and wet, and I get this wet, and then what I do, and sometimes I actually put my foot back here, and I'll put a lot of pressure and just bear down on this thing. Okay. Just like that. Alright. Keep spinning that. Bring it all the way. For me, this is going to be a little bit, this is going to be about that size, maybe a little bit larger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it to almost the very edge. That's the size that I want it to be. So then I'll go over it, make sure one more time just to make sure it's nice and centered. Now if you're in my room, I suggest before you start, there's two things that you need to remember. You have to do one of these on a wooden bat, a plastic bat I mean. You don't do this on a wheel head because you have to be able to remove it. Right now, I'm trying to, there we go. I'm actually going to take this off because it's getting in my way. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my bucket. Now you want to get on the side, Ben? Away from the side. So what I'll do is I'll put this up against here. So when it spins, the slip hits the sponge rather than the thing. So, okay, that's enough. You can go sit down. The reason I took off the bat is, the shield is because I can't get my hand there as well. Now, it's hard to tell how thick these are, so you always want to take your needle, stick in. It's about that thick right now, so it's about an inch. I want it to be thinner than that. Take my sponge, go in, go over a little bit, and come back and test it. Okay, be a little bit thinner. So I made my entry hole, trying to keep it as steady as I can and as consistent on the bottom with thickness. You don't want to go too thin in some areas because you'll go through. Test it one more time. It's about 1/4 of an inch. That's what I am looking for. If you're questioning if I trim this, yes, you trim everything in ceramics. So once I pull this clay out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the rim nice and wet. Then I'm going to take my hand like I brace it. I'm going to push up against, and I'm going to recenter the clay. If you're in Ceramics 3 and you don't know how to recenter the clay, I failed as a teacher, and you need to come talk to me so I can explain that, because it's very, very helpful in recentering. So, right here, and then you can see how I pull just a little bit differently than probably what I've taught you in class. You want a nice thick rim on these. If you don't have a thick rim, that means that, because you have a big old ceramic Dutch oven lid that you're sliding on and off of this, and if you're actually going to use it, you want to make sure that the rim's thick. The rest of the pot doesn't need to be super thick, but the rim does need to have a little bit more thickness on it just because of the rim. Now the clay that I'm using for every Dutch oven, it's important that you use stoneware. You do not want to use porcelain. The reason why is if you use porcelain, it will crack. It's not very good for temperature shock. The molecules are much larger with stoneware, and they're looser. They're not as tight, and so they can expand and contract quite a bit easier. So I have the shape that I'm looking for. Now what I'm going to do on the bottoms, I'm going to take my wooden knife. I'm going to go across the bottom just to make sure that it's all the same thickness. Okay, try to make sure it's flat on the bottom. Then what I'll do is I'll take my metal rib. Oops. See that? It's stuck right in there. So I'll just go over that, fix it. Smooth at the bottom just a little bit more. I'm going to take my metal rib and push up against that side. The reason being is I want it to be round at the bottom. I do not want it to be flat. I don't want it to be a sharp angle. I want it to be nice and round. And the reason being is when you're cooking with these, you want to have, when you take your spoon and you slide it down, you don't want it to hit the bottom. You want it to just keep on going. Come up, push that out. Focus on making the inside look really nice. And then after I'm done with the inside, after that's really nice and smooth, I make mistakes too. Put just a little bit more clay in there. If you take a big nick out of there, sometimes you can just put some clay, go back over it. And then for the top, what I do is I take a metal rib and I go over the top of it and I hold it pretty firm there just so it forces the top to be flat. And then what I'll do is I'll go over this edge here, and at the end I'll go over it with a piece of plastic just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. And I'll widen that out just a little bit more. And then side. Let's come up. And I like leaving a little line towards the bottom of it. You'll see on the outside. See on the outside, I'm going to take my metal rib, this round part. I'm just going to push it right up against the rim and where I made that line. I'm just going to put a little indent there. Make it look concave. I kind of like that, so. You can tell that I don't take a lot of time in actually pulling the shape. It's trying to get all the little tiny details in there, making it look smooth. Not making it look smooth, actually having completely smooth and have the angles that I want on there. Once I'm all done, what I'll do is I will take a red rubber rib, this, make sure it's nice and clean, and then I'll go over the whole thing just to smooth it out. The last thing I'll do is take off a little piece of plastic. The cheaper, the thinner the plastic, the better. And then I'm just going to go over some of those angles. Make sure they're round rather than sharp, because you don't want anything sharp on your Dutch oven because it'll chip off. This is going to be a very functional piece. Here, get that angle one more time with your metal rib. Okay. And that is the base demonstration for a Dutch oven. Thanks for watching.